Solo is finally showing his true colors, and we found out the secrets behind the syndrome.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I'll be breaking that all down right now, so let's just dive into it. I want to start off with Bernard, Lucas, and Salvatore Quinn's message, because whatever is inside that message is so important that it's been encrypted twice and stored in a red level relic. And I think that's because that message contains the secrets behind the silo. If you guys remember back in episode 4, right before Judge Meadows died, she told Bernard that she had deciphered the message. However, she refused to tell him what was on that message, but whatever was on that message caused her to quit being his shadow 25 years ago. And what we can tell from Judge Meadows' behavior before she died was she wanted to go outside so bad because she didn't believe that whatever was happening in the silo was real. And that's where I think the legacy comes in. Bernard mentioned to Lucas that he has to show Lucas the legacy, and therefore he swears Lucas in as his shadow. But what exactly is the legacy? What I think the legacy is a compilation of all the information from the before times being stored in the IT vaults, which would make sense as to why Bernard is the only one with so much information about the before times, even super technical stuff like the Caesar shift encryption. And it being inside the IT vault also makes sense because that would mean every other IT vault contains their version of the legacy, which adds to why Solo had so much information about elephants and other animals in the previous episode, because he too has access to the legacy, which means only the head of IT can have access to this legacy, which is why Bernard made Lucas his shadow, which I think is going to cause a big divide between him and Sims. But we're going to get into that just a little later, because we see Sims' wife is setting Sims to be in direct opposition to Bernard, and Bernard is not doing himself any favors by pushing Sims away and embracing Lucas. Sims this episode saw Lucas in Bernard's office and he didn't like that at all. But we're going to get into that later. Let's get back to the legacy and the message. I've been saying now for the past few videos that I think whatever's going on in the silo is a social experiment. And this more than confirms it to me, because once Judge Meadows deciphered the code, she quit being Bernard's shadow. She became disillusioned with life in the silo. It first started with people forgetting to click the subscribe button, which led to the alcohol. Remember all last season, she was an alcoholic. And this season, when she saw Juliet survive outside, she wanted to go out. Even though she was Bernard's shadow, she read the order, she still wanted to go outside, which would not make any sense because Bernard also read the order and knows everything that's going on outside, but he wants to follow it. The only difference between the two of them is Judge Meadows actually read Salvatore Quinn's message. Remember specifically what she told Bernard. She quit being his shadow because she realized he would always choose the silo over her. The reason I find that very important is because when Bernard and Lucas were going over Salvatore Quinn's message, trying to decipher it, the only thing they could make out is the name of his daughter, Allie. Once they broke through the first layer of basic encryption, Salvatore Quinn figured something out and he passed it on to his daughter, Allie. Remember last season when Gloria told Juliet that the Flamekeepers were founded after the last rebellion 140 years ago? That was the same rebellion where Salvatore Quinn was the head of IT. What if Allie became a Flamekeeper because of the message her dad left her? That's my theory I'm working on, and that's why I think Judge Meadows became disillusioned, because if the head of IT during the rebellion was disillusioned with the silo so much so that he wrote an encrypted letter and hid it in a red level relic that is being passed down from his daughter to the rest of the Flamekeepers, and she was able to decipher that message and find out the truth that everything they're doing is BS and it's all an experiment, it tracks with her behavior, and it also tracks with her not being able to tell Bernard. Bernard believes in the order so much so that he's following it to the book and stoking the rebellion, to the point that he's actually losing the rebellion, because even though the rebellion is adapting, Bernard is not adapting. He's following the order to the T, but he doesn't realize rules that worked when the silo was first created are not going to work now. The people in the silo are now more adept to living in the silo, and they've somewhat evolved or devolved, because we all saw what happened with Billings and his condition. And we're going to talk about the syndrome because we finally found out the secrets behind the syndrome, which tracks with the theory that Judge Meadows told Billings about back in episode 3, which again points back to Salvatore Quinn's notes and the legacy. But before that, let's finish breaking down the rebellion and why it's working. Because Bernard's inflexibility to leave the order behind, to the point where he's actually breaking his own protocol in order to stop the rebellion so the rebellion doesn't happen on his watch. It's not necessarily an altruistic thing he wants to do. He doesn't care about the overall safety of it all. He just doesn't want it to happen on his watch. But it's going to happen because Bernard tried to starve Mechanical by not sending food down there, creating a blockade, and essentially creating an embargo against the Down Deep. Either they turn Shirley and Knox in, or they starve to death. But luckily for them, people are getting disillusioned with the silo and with Bernard's rule. So level 122 started sending food down to the down deep, which bought them enough time to come up with a plan. And I'm gonna give Shirley her props because earlier this season, I talked about how bad she was at planning, but her plan was brilliant. The two-pronged attack to seize the farm on the mids was brilliant. And this is exactly why Sims was needed and why Bernard's gonna lose. But I also think if Bernard loses, Sims is going to rise. While Bernard is following the order and everything that's happening seems to be pre-calculated by him in the order, starving the rebels, knowing people are gonna feed the rebellion, and therefore everything seems to be going according to plan. But what he's not accounting for is everything else happening outside of his obsession with Salvatore Quinn's message. Because while he's focused on that, Sims found out that Lucas is working for Bernard. And not just that, when Bernard tried to check Sims' wife about her helping Knox and Shirley last episode, Sims' wife, remember, used to work in judicial. She was a raider and now she works in IT. So she's been a part of both of the best organizations in the silo and she knows the laws like the back of her hand. When Bernard tried to question her, she actually checked them with knowledge of the law and everything she said was correct right down to the letter of the law, pushing Bernard in a corner. And now he sees that he's probably met his match, but he can't move against her just yet. He can't risk alienating Sims. What he doesn't realize though is he already alienated Sims. When he made Sims judge, he essentially turned Sims into a pencil pusher. He alienated Sims, but remember what I said in my last video, Sims has a deeper network than Bernard. So even the people working for Bernard are reporting to Sims. And that's how Sims found out about the two-pronged attack that Shirley was doing. And Sims could have stopped it. But remember what I said about his wife putting him and Bernard at odds. She stopped him from stopping the attack, essentially pushing Bernard back against the wall. And they're not the only ones who are making a power play against him. Billings. Let's talk about Billings and the syndrome, because now we know how the syndrome works. The syndrome is definitely a reaction to living inside the silo. And it makes sense because these people live without direct access to the sunlight, and humans, we need access to the sun. It does something to our physiology and our psychology. The syndrome seems to be a psychosynaptic condition. The reason I say that is because once Billings' mentality changes against the silo and Bernard, and his determination to find out the truth about outside started happening, we see that the syndrome went away. His wife pointed it out. His hands are no longer shaking. Not just that, but now he knows the secrets of the silo. And instead of joining Mechanical's rebellion or joining Bernard and suppressing the rebellion, he actually created a third faction, which is his own faction, which I think Juliet's dad and Hank are a part of. And that's to get to the truth. It doesn't matter about the politics of the silo. It doesn't matter what's going on. Billings wants to follow the law and wants to get to the bottom of the truth. Remember, he doesn't know about the order. Everything he's going by is by the laws of society. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that's honorable, but still very dangerous because we don't know what's going on outside. And Juliet can't come warn them in time because Solo did exactly what I said he was gonna do. He's gonna force Juliet to save his silo before she can go back to hers. Juliet is going to help him, not because she's afraid of Solo, but because I know Solo, and he probably took her suit and put it inside the vault of IT. Juliet can't get inside. He's the only one with the code that we know of, because I still think there's other people around. And now more than ever, this has confirmed my theory that Solo is not the original person in the vault, and he's somebody who snuck in there and he's been living there. Because just the way he moves, just everything about Solo is slimy, and not just slimy, but we know it's not his real name. We know he's been trying to use different passwords to get inside there. He's either an outlaw from outside the silo, or he might actually be Russell's son, the former head of IT of Silo 17. The reason I say that is because he may have been Russell's son, but Russell didn't deem him worthy enough to become his shadow, and therefore he went around and killed the actual shadow and stuck inside the vault. Because everything happening in Silo 17 and Silo 18 are mirrors of themselves, and we see how the fight to be Bernard's shadow is something raging on in Silo 18 between Sims, Lucas, Bernard, and Sims' wife. So what if that is what actually happened in Silo 17 as well? And that's really what caused the rebellion to go awry. Not only is 25 years ago when Judge Meadows deciphered Salvatore Quinn's message, 25 years ago was also when the rebellion in Silo 17 happened. What if both the silos deciphered the message at the same time and they led down two different paths? That's just my theory, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. And guys, if you like this video, give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.